Welcome to Into the Darkness, where we dive into the most spine-chilling and captivating true crime stories from around the world. Each week, we take you deep into the heart of the darkest mysteries and the most notorious criminals. Our detailed narratives, gripping voiceovers, and vivid visuals will immerse you in the thrilling world of true crime. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our community of crime enthusiasts. Get ready to uncover the truth, face the terror, and remember, every story hides a shadow. Now, let's dive into the darkness. The Great Grammy Disappearance. It was a bright, sun-drenched Friday afternoon when Sarah and Tommy arrived at their Grammy's house for the weekend. Grammy, a sprightly woman in her early 70s, met them at the door with a warm, wrinkled smile. Her eyes, though softened by age, twinkled with the joy that only grandchildren can bring. However, behind Grammy's warm welcome lay a house that many would consider more of a maze than a home. Nestled at the end of a sleepy suburban cul-de-sac, Grammy's house stood in stark contrast to its pristine neighbors. The garden was a wild tangle of overgrown plants, and the curtains were drawn tight, hiding the interior from prying eyes. Inside, the house was an intricate labyrinth of towering piles of old newspapers, teetering stacks of magazines, broken appliances, and a multitude of trinkets and mementos gathered over decades. To many, it would be overwhelming and chaotic, but to Sarah, 8, and Tommy, 6, it was an endless adventure waiting to unfold. "Grammy!" shouted in unison, bursting through the door and diving into the sea of forgotten treasures. Grammy chuckled, her heart swelling with affection. She hugged them tightly, enveloping them in the familiar scent of lavender and antique wood. "Thank you for watching them, Mom," John said, exchanging a worried glance with Lisa. "We'll be back Sunday evening," Lisa added, squeezing Grammy's hand. "Don't you worry, we're going to have a wonderful time," Grammy assured them, waving as they drove away. Turning back to her grandkids, she watched them rummage through old toys and mysterious objects with wide-eyed wonder. Despite their enthusiasm, a flicker of anxiety tugged at Grammy. She knew she should address her hoarding, but the task seemed insurmountable. Saturday began with the promise of fun and laughter. Grammy woke early to make her famous blueberry pancakes, the sweet aroma wafting through the cluttered house. Sarah and Tommy, already immersed in their imaginative play, were pretending to be explorers in a land of forgotten wonders. "Breakfast is ready!" Grammy called, her voice echoing through the crowded rooms. But there was no response. She called again, louder this time, and still no answer. A knot of worry began to form in her chest. "Sarah? Tommy?" she called, her voice tinged with urgency. She started to search the house, pushing aside stacks of old books and stepping over heaps of clothes. The maze of clutter made it difficult to move quickly, and Grammy's panic began to rise. Her mind raced with terrifying thoughts. What if they had wandered outside and been taken? What if they were trapped somewhere in the house, hidden under the mountains of junk? Her heart pounded as she grabbed her keys and rushed out the door, shouting their names into the empty street. She drove through the neighborhood, scanning parks, playgrounds, and familiar haunts. She even stopped by the local convenience store, but there was no sign of Sarah and Tommy. With each passing hour, Grammy's desperation grew. She enlisted the help of neighbors, who spread out in all directions, but the search yielded nothing. As the afternoon sun began to set, casting long shadows over the suburban streets, Grammy's fear turned to despair. She returned home, her mind a whirlwind of guilt and dread. She knew she should call John and Lisa, but the thought of admitting her failure was too much to bear. Back inside her cluttered home, Grammy was determined to search every inch again. She crawled through tight spaces, moved boxes and piles of clothes, and climbed over heaps of forgotten items. The house, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a suffocating prison. Hours passed, and Grammy's energy waned. She slumped down in the living room, surrounded by chaos, feeling utterly defeated. Her thoughts were interrupted by a faint giggle. She froze, straining to hear. Another giggle, followed by whispers. Grammy's heart leapt. She followed the sound. pushing aside a stack of old blankets and navigating through a narrow passage formed by precarious piles of junk. There, at the very back of the room, hidden behind an elaborate fort made of sheets, chairs, and boxes, she found Sarah and Tommy. They were huddled together, their faces lit by the glow of a flashlight, completely absorbed in their play. Relief and exhaustion washed over Grammy as she collapsed to her knees. "Oh, thank God," she sobbed, pulling them into her arms. "I was so worried. Where were you?" "We built a secret fort, Grammy," Tommy said proudly. "It's our hideout." "We were playing explorers," Sarah added, her eyes shining with excitement. "We didn't mean to scare you." Grammy held them tightly, her heart bursting with love and relief. "It's okay, sweethearts. I'm just so glad you're safe." John and Lisa arrived shortly after, relieved to find their children safe and sound. Grammy explained what had happened, leaving out the most terrifying parts of her search. They were understanding but concerned. "Mom, you really need to do something about all this clutter," John said gently. "It's not safe for the kids." Grammy nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know. I'll start cleaning up. I promise." Over the next few weeks, Grammy made a concerted effort to declutter. She threw away old newspapers, donated clothes, and cleared out several rooms. The process was painful. Each item discarded felt like letting go of a piece of her life. But she was determined to create a safer, more welcoming home for her grandchildren. Months passed, and Grammy's house transformed. The once chaotic maze became a cozy, organized home. Sarah and Tommy continued to visit, their love for Grammy undiminished. Life seemed to have settled into a comfortable routine. One evening, as Grammy was sorting through an old box of trinkets, she found a strange old journal. The leather cover was cracked and worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. Intrigued, she opened it and began to read. The entries were written in a spidery, old-fashioned script, detailing the life of a woman named Margaret, Grammy's great-grandmother. Margaret had been a hoarder too, but her story was darker. As Grammy read, she discovered that Margaret's children had gone missing one day, only to be found weeks later, hidden within the hoard. The journal hinted at a strange compulsion that drove Margaret to collect and hide things, including her own children. It was a chilling parallel to her own life. Grammy's hands trembled as she turned the last page. There, in Margaret's final entry, was a warning. The hoard has a life of its own. It consumes, it hides, and it controls. Beware, for it seeks to reclaim what was lost. Suddenly, the room grew cold, and a sense of dread filled Grammy. She glanced around, her eyes wide with fear. The clutter she had cleared away had started to return, creeping back into her home like a living entity. She realized with horror that the hoard wasn't just a collection of things, it was a curse passed down through generations. Grammy stood up, her resolve hardening. She couldn't let the curse take her grandchildren. She had to break the cycle. With renewed determination, she began to clear the clutter again, this time with the help of John, Lisa, and the children. Together, they fought the hoard, piece by piece, until the house was free of its dark grip. In the end, Grammy learned that the true treasure wasn't in the things she hoarded, but in the love and memories she shared with her family. And though the curse was broken, the memory of that dark compulsion would always remind them of the importance of letting go. As days turned into weeks, a sense of unease lingered in Grammy's mind. Shadows seemed to stretch and darken corners of the house more quickly than before. Strange, almost imperceptible noises disrupted the silence of the nights. Grammy tried to brush it off as paranoia, but deep down she feared the curse was not truly broken. One chilly evening, while Grammy was alone, she heard the faint rustling of paper. She followed the sound, heart pounding, to the attic. The once empty space was filled again, as if by unseen hands. Piles of old newspapers, toys, and forgotten memories were back in their places. Grammy felt a chill run down her spine. Desperate, she opened the journal again, seeking answers. Hidden within the pages was a key and a map of the house, marked with symbols she couldn't understand. Determined, Grammy followed the map, leading her to a small, hidden room beneath the floorboards of her bedroom. Inside, she found a dusty chest. With trembling hands, she unlocked the chest, revealing a collection of old letters and photographs. As she sifted through them, a horrific realization dawned on her. The letters spoke of a ritual, a pact made by Margaret to protect her children from a dark entity. The hoard was not just a curse, but a guardian of the pact. By trying to break free, Grammy had unknowingly awakened it. Suddenly, the house seemed to come alive. The walls creaked and groaned as if breathing. Grammy felt her sanity slipping away, the oppressive weight of the hoard bearing down on her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadows grew darker, whispering secrets of despair and doom. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Grammy noticed a photograph of a young Margaret holding a mysterious pendant. She frantically searched the chest and found the pendant buried at the bottom. Clutching it, she felt a surge of clarity and strength. Grandma knew what she had to do. She gathered her family and explained everything. Together, they performed the ritual described in the letters, hoping to end the curse once and for all. As they chanted the ancient words, the house shuddered, and the hoard seemed to resist, fighting to stay alive. In a final act of defiance, Grammy held the pendant high, and with a blinding flash, the hoard collapsed, disappearing into nothingness. The house fell silent, the oppressive weight lifted. Grammy collapsed to the floor, exhausted but victorious. In the weeks that followed, Grammy and her family worked to rebuild their lives. The house, once a prison of forgotten memories, became a place of warmth and love. However, the pendant remained a constant reminder of the darkness they had faced. One day, Sarah found a letter addressed to her in the attic. It was from Margaret, written long before her descent into madness. The letter spoke of hope, resilience, and the importance of family. It ended with a warning. The hoard may be gone, but its shadow lingers. Stay vigilant, for the darkness always seeks a way back. As Sarah read the letter, she felt a chill run down her spine. She looked around the room, noticing the shadows seemed to stretch just a little too far. The sense of mystery and dread never fully left, but it was a reminder of the strength and love that had conquered the darkness. And so, Grammy and her family lived on, bound together by their shared past and the ever-present whisper of what lay in the shadows.